Hey guys, Dave with Photo Tipster. Just want to give you a quick tip to introduce you to some terms you're going to hear in photography. One of the biggest terms that you need to learn in photography is aperture. Aperture refers to, on the lens, on the inside, you'll see that this opening's getting bigger and smaller. Okay, that is our aperture. It's very similar to what the pupil does in the eye to regulate the quantity of light. In this case, it's regulating the quantity of light coming into the lens, into your camera. Okay, so this aperture gets smaller and bigger. In photography, we measure these openings with what we call f-stops. So if we look on the lens here, this is a Nikon 50mm f1.4. What the f1.4 refers to is the maximum aperture that the lens can go to, or that it can open to. So if we set this to f1.4, you'll see that there's a lot of light coming through this lens. That's the maximum aperture of available light to go through the lens. Okay, on a side note, if we have an aperture, usually anything f2.8, which is right here. So anything 2.8 and lower, here's f2, here's 1.4. We will call the lens a fast lens because when we have a lot of light coming through, the shutter that's behind the aperture can open and close quickly, thus giving us fast shutter speeds. That's why they call this a fast lens. Okay, so on the lens, these numbers are f-stops. So the biggest opening, f1.4, is here. But what's confusing to most new photographers that are starting out is that the f-stops, the lower the number, the bigger the opening. And the bigger the number, as it gets bigger, when we go to f16, you'll notice that that opening is really small now. Okay, so the smaller the number, here's f1.4, f2, f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, f11, f16. Notice as the opening got smaller, the number got bigger. So it's actually backwards the way that our brain would think it would work. And this can be very confusing to newcoming people to photography. It's just one of those things that you just have to accept for what it is, that the lower the number, the bigger the opening. Okay? So these f-stops are how we control the quantity of light coming through the lens. Notice as the opening gets smaller, less light is coming through the lens. Okay? So when we started at f1.4 and we go to f2, we've actually cut the amount of light coming through the lens in half. When we go to f2 to f2.8, we've cut it in half again. From f2.8 to f4, it gets cut in half again. So each time we make this opening smaller, we're cutting the light in half. Okay? This is referred to as stopping down the lens, taking the aperture opening and making it smaller. This is stopping down. Okay? The opposite of stopping down is when we take a small aperture and make it bigger, we are now opening up the lens. Okay? So right now, we're going from f16 to f11, f11 to f8, f8 to f5.6, f5.6 to f4, f4 to f2.8, f2.8 to f2, and then f2 to f1.4. We've opened up the lens. Okay, so each time we move from one f-stop to the next, we are either opening up or stopping down the lens. Okay, so let's use an example. Let's say we're set at f16 and you take a picture and it comes out too dark because there's not enough light getting through. And you say, hey, what can I do to fix that? And I may say, well, why don't we try opening up the lens 2 stops of light to get more light in there. So if we're at f16 and we open up 2 stops, we're going to go from f16 to f11, which is 1 stop, to f8, which is 2 stops. So we've opened up 2 stops of light. Okay? Let's say we're shooting at f1.4 and we take a picture and it's really bright and overexposed. Okay, so what we need to do in this case is stop down the lens. So to stop down the lens, we're going to go from f1.4 possibly to f2, f2.8, or f4, or f5.6. Okay, so each time we move to the next aperture, we're stopping down the lens. Okay, so these are terms you're going to hear in photography, used by photographers to explain what they're doing with the f-stops. So if somebody's trying to help you and they say, hey, open up the lens, what they mean is make the opening of the aperture bigger from wherever you are. If they say stop down the lens, they mean make it smaller. Okay, so I hope that clarifies things for you so you can understand what these terms are. So when you're out taking pictures and somebody offers some help, you're not standing there going, I don't understand a word that person just said. So we'll get into some other things about aperture and f-stops in other tutorials. But right now I just want you to understand that the aperture opening on the lens, okay, it's measured in f-stops, and it regulates and controls the quantity of light coming through the lens. That's all for this video, guys. We'll see you in the next one.